Welcome to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host. Here's our format. A bunch of guys sitting around a bar. There's no bar. Having drinks. There's no drinks either. But we're talking business, and you, the audience, are listening in. The Best of Investing is actually a radio show that has been around since August 2010, and it airs every Saturday on Fox News Radio, 9:10 a.m. at 1 p.m. Now, we're not a political show. We're strictly business, so everyone will be happy with that. We'll have various speakers, guest speakers, attorneys, accountants, economic advisors. The cool thing about this is that you're actually getting to see scenes behind the scenes. So we all have headphones on because we're recording a radio show that is going to be airing on the air on radio. But in addition, you get to see what happens during the commercial breaks, how we prepare for the next segment. So it's a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of levity because I like to try to throw a little bit of humor in there because, just business by itself sometimes gets a little boring. So you got to always kind of break things. Remember, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome, you're listening to the Best of Investing on News Talk 910. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to have as my co-host Mark Hoff of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender, and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. And today's trivia theme is initials in business. I'll give you the initials and you tell me the company. So on television, Comcast Channel 26 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. And don't forget, dar.fm is a website that you can use to record our show in the future. And today's special guest is Geraldine Berry, who is the producer of the Expo Silicon Valley. And Geraldine, welcome to the Best of Investing. Tell us, what is the Expo Silicon Valley?
Well, Expo Silicon Valley has a lineup of 22 real estate experts from across the country talking about what's going on in the market. Market timing is a key piece of investing. We will have several panels. We have a capital market panel with 4 top-level investment bankers, including Stephen Kahani of Lone Oak Fund and Ron LaRussa of Fremont Bank. We've got the Mayor of Santa Clara, Jamie Matthews, and the County Assessor, and Nancy Klein, one of the city planners, and Michelle from Foreclosure Radar, speaking on the status of the Valley. And as you know, the Valley is really hot right now. Economically, we're beginning to thrive, and real estate prices are escalating, and inventory is low. So we're going to talk about all of these things.
And Geraldine, you know a lot about real estate in the Valley because you're also the founder and president of the San Jose Real Estate Investor Association, is that right?
That's correct, and we have 3 chapters in the Bay Area, so we're all over the Bay, and we do have our hand on the pulse of what's going on here.
Well, that's exciting. So what's the goal of the Expo?
Well, I think 5 or 6, 10 years ago, you had these expos and there were big sales pitches. And right now, we have the best buying opportunity of our lifetime in real estate. So this expo is bringing together the people that you need as a broker, as an investor, as a very sophisticated investor. We have 3 tracks of education so that you can get the information that you need to make a good, profitable investment decision.
Now, as someone who runs a real estate investor association in the Bay Area, are you seeing a lot of people this year in 2012 coming back into the real estate investment arena? I know last year it was a little bit, touch and go, and of course the fourth quarter last year was probably one of the worst markets to sell real estate in. I think it was, or it may have been the bottom of the market, but boy, it's been an interesting year so far.
It has, and things have kind of changed very dramatically in terms of real estate here in the Valley, but not only here, in a lot of the major metro areas, inventory is limited, and so people are beginning to feel like, I need to get back in. With interest rates at historic lows, the prices are right, the cost to rebuild is is way more than you're buying for. So when you have that kind of a scenario and you can lock in these great 30-year interest rates, it's a great time to participate, and people are seeing that now. And the stock market definitely has a place in a portfolio, but real estate too should be part of every portfolio as a diversification strategy and as a hedge against inflation.
Well, hey Geraldine, I was going to ask you, is this Expo for experienced investors or novices or both?
It's for all levels. So we have 21 workshops, and so we have one track that's for agents and brokers. How do you deal with investors, IRA investing? Then we have the more basic level, and then we have the more sophisticated level. But the basic level, one of our speakers is going to talk about he's from Arizona, Jason Hartman, and he talks about the 12 commandments of investing. What do you need to do to invest wisely, and what do you need to stay away from? And then one segment that we're having that I feel is a very, very significant piece of investing, especially if you're outside of your hometown, and that is due diligence. How do you do due diligence? We have Chris Clothier from Memphis Invest doing a 2-segment piece on due diligence. And what do you look at, and what are the economic drivers that you need in terms of investing? How many people, what kind of population do you need in an area in order to consider investing there? Personally, I don't want to be in any metro area that's less than 1 million. But there are people that have different strategies and different criteria. But at least if you go and you get educated about it, you can decide that's important to me. Like schools. Are schools important to you? I think if you're in a good school district, you'll get a family to occupy your house and pay it off for you. There's lots of things that you may not have considered that will be discussed in that session.
Geraldine, this is Robert Schiff at RPM Mortgage. It sounds like a fascinating conference you're putting on. Can you tell me exactly when it is and where it is?
Well, it's Expo Silicon Valley at the Santa Clara Convention Center here in Santa Clara, and it includes free parking. Lunch is included because we know that networking is a key component to investing, and you know, if you can pick up the phone if you have a problem and ask somebody because you've made that right connection, that really helps the process.
Yeah. I've been to that convention center.
For you as an
beautiful.
investor. And so people who will talk about, we have Lamar Baxter and Jeffrey Hare, attorney, who will talk about investing in your IRA. I own some houses in my IRA, and how does that work? How does one do that? People don't know sometimes that you can use an IRA, an individual retirement account, to invest in real estate, and how, what a great thing that is. I see my rents rolling in there every month. It doesn't go up and down. The house was rehabbed after we purchased it. So it's a great strategy for building your long-term wealth. And what we find here in the Valley is that a lot of professionals who work and are immersed in the Silicon Valley want to create some financial freedom, and real estate is the tool to do that.
How many people do you expect to attend the conference?
We expect anywhere from 600 to 1,000 people.
Yeah, that convention center is beautiful.
Oh my gosh, that's a great networking opportunity.
Yeah, we're actually in the ballroom. We're not in the dark, dull dungeon.
Well,
Nice
Mark makes a good point that, not only would people get a lot of good education by going to this, but it's a great networking opportunity, during break time and whatever for various people there.
Well, yes, and as I mentioned, we have the Bay Area Muscle Panel, like the mayor and the county assessor and the city planner, and then Michelle from Foreclosure Radar are going to talk about the numbers here if you're interested in that. And that's why we have 3 tracks, so that if one segment doesn't interest you, you have several others to choose from.
And that's all for one price.
All for one price.
That's great. Okay, Geraldine, stay with us in the studio. We're going to cut to a commercial break. Got a quick little announcement here for our friend Kramer, the videographer. Now, listen to this. On Saturday, on September 15th at 11:30 a.m., the Bay Area audience will get a chance to see what it's like to live at ground zero of a capital punishment debate in the shadow of San Quentin State Prison. Eye of the Storm, that's the name of it, premiere at the historic Lark Theater relives the night of the controversial execution of Stanley Tookie Williams. Tickets are $25 online and $30 at the door, but if you mention Best of Investing, you only have to pay $10. Not a bad deal, just mention it right at the door. And all proceeds are going to benefit the local nonprofit Meals of Marin. Kramer's a good guy here. And with KTVU's own Pam Cook as the MC and a question and answer session to follow, the film is meant to encourage a discussion about the media, capital punishment, and freedom of speech. That would be quite interesting.
Awesome.
You can watch the theatrical trailer and purchase tickets at www.mealsofmarin.net. Thank you, Mr. Kramer. All right, Gabe, we're going to cut to the first commercial break, and again, the trivia theme is initials in business. The business 3M. What do the 3 M's stand for? And we will be right back. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. And on the phone in the studio, we have Geraldine Berry, who is in charge of the Silicon Valley Expo that we'll get into in just a minute. But when we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this first trivia question. The theme is initials in business. The business 3M, what do the 3 M's stand for?
Well, it
Go
was
ahead.
the Minnesota company who had mining and manufacturing.
That is correct. Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. Very good,
I wouldn't have
Robert.
guessed that in a million years.
Not in a million years. Okay. Geraldine, can you tell us what, there's a couple of extra special guests that you have, right, for the Expo?
Yes, one of the guests that we frequently have at the SJREI is Bruce Norris, and Bruce is a market timing expert, and he's developed his expertise over 30 plus years in the business, and he has a very good track record. In 2005, he came to our organization and talked about the financial crisis on the horizon and the fact that outlying areas would be pounded in terms of real estate prices, and a lot of our members, including myself, exited the market at that point.
He wasn't very popular when he made that prediction, Geraldine, was he?
People didn't want to hear, you never want to hear bad news, you know what I'm saying? And people did not want to hear that the market was going to tank. They thought real estate goes up forever, exponentially, and so it fell on deaf ears to some degree, but those of us who took action, I actually liquidated my primary residence after we liquidated our investment property and rented for 6 years.
Wow.
And just popped back into the market a year and a half ago now. And I'm very happy with that, with the way things played
That's
out.
amazing to be able to, I mean, it's one thing to sell rental property, but to sell your personal residence?
Well, what I did was I moved down within walking distance of my children's school, so it kind of simplified my life, and then I thought it would be for a couple of years, but it turned into 6. And so sometimes things don't play out the way you intend, and you know, now we got back in, and I think we got in at a very good time. Now we see prices escalating here in Silicon Valley again.
So we're talking with Geraldine Berry, who's the producer of the Silicon Valley Expo, which is going to be this coming Saturday, September 8th.
Saturday.
Next Saturday, well,
A week from today.
a week from today, yes, next Saturday, September 8th. And is Bruce Norris your keynote speaker, or is he just one of the many great speakers?
One of my speakers. To be honest, we have so many incredible speakers now. We have, as I mentioned, we have a bunch of heavyweight bankers that are doing a panel on, you know, the capital markets and what's going on with them. We have Jason Hartman. We have Tom Wilson from Wilson Properties. We have Kevin Kazmarek from Capital Blueprint. These are all people who are at the top of their game. And as I mentioned, I think off air, they're contractually obligated not to sell from the workshop floor.
So this is information,
It's just
not sales
only,
pitch.
yeah.
Okay,
And
well,
then
that's good.
will people,
I like that.
yeah, will
I hate
there,
when I go somewhere and I get a big sales pitch. Give me the meat.
will there be question and answer time at the end of each session?
I doubt it, because but the speakers will be available to mingle, and we'll be having a meet and greet with them afterwards, and they'll be available. But I think that I've seen the presentations, and they're going to take the full 40 minutes. So every segment is 40 minutes.
So that's actually really important, and bears repeating, Geraldine, that this is not like that event that they used to host in San Francisco for several years, where you'd go listen to somebody and every single speaker was selling their back of the room, $1,500, run back there with your credit card and buy some program that wouldn't work.
Absolutely not.
So this is not
what
that.
What we like to say in my office is Donald Trump will not be attending.
That's
So
right.
anyway, but yes, it's all about the content.
Well, and we talked a little bit before the show, Geraldine, how Bruce Norris, who I think is a fabulous speaker, and I like to go anywhere where he's going to be talking about real estate, and his most recent newsletter just came out, and he is very bullish on real estate. Now, he's predicting that based on a number of variables, which he talks about in his newsletter, he's thinking that there's a strong possibility that real estate prices might actually spike up in the next year. And we're certainly seeing, at least right now, not a whole lot of inventory out there for real estate investors.
Right. And even you're seeing Arizona where inventory levels are lower, but prices are coming up. And it's not just in California. There are other cities, too, that are experiencing, the inventory levels that are a little bit lower. And so it looks like we have powered through some of this inventory, and the banks, we're expecting this big release of inventory that never really happened. So this was a very different cycle for us.
It really was. In fact, I think for the last 3 years, we've been talking about the second wave or the coming, the second tsunami of all that shadow inventory. And quite frankly, it doesn't look like at this point that really is going to materialize, that the banks have figured out another way to work through that. And as a result, if that inventory is not forthcoming, then that really adds upward pressure to prices. And I think that's good.
What do you think they're
Exactly.
doing
And
with
even
it?
in terms of government intervention, when the government intervenes and foreclosures don't move through the process the way they should, it impacts inventory levels. And so we've had a lot of intervention that's artificial. And so you're seeing the impact of that now.
No,
The inventory is definitely being burned through.
I think the banks have been, for a while, reluctant to foreclose on properties and face the legal ramifications of robo-signing. But I also think that they've pretty much cleared the obstacles to that out. And I think there is a large bank inventory, but like Mark says, they are not either without purpose or with purpose. They're not putting it out on the market.
What are they doing? Are they leasing them out? Or
Well,
they just keep them vacant?
I'm hearing in certain cities where there's really a large amount, they're waiting for the government to say, we'll allow you to go to the people who are still the owners or were the owners and rent it back to them with some kind of plan where they can eventually become owners again. But none of the
Yeah,
plans.
that's hysterical if the government gets involved in a program like that too, Fannie Mae. And
Yes, and really
it's
is.
interesting that they're even bandying that around. But what could prove fruitful for investors in the future is these big hedge funds who are coming in and buying up a lot of inventory, and they can pay more because they're holding it for the long term. But I think they underestimate how much work it takes to actually manage properties.
Well,
That's a good
I
point.
know that some big names like Sam Zell and Warren Buffett are involved in some companies that are thinking of buying large amounts of real estate, taking it off of the bank's portfolio.
Well, they have the money to do the infrastructure
They
of
Most of the
management.
funds are doing that.
They
We're
certainly do,
seeing a lot
yes.
of evidence of
Yes.
that. But what I'm saying is they're underestimating the work that's involved with managing a portfolio. It's not like the stock market. These are actually people that you're dealing with, and I think at some point in the future they may want to offload those.
I agree with you. I think they don't realize that unlike stocks, they have leaky faucets and pipes and heat that doesn't
That's
work.
right,
or-
unpredictable.
So
Yes.
then what happens? Are they going to flood the market with sales and all in one
I
shot?
don't think they've
Wow.
flooded the market, but I think that, I think they've underestimated what they've taken on, and the truth and reality probably won't hit them for a few years, but it's something we should keep our eye on as investors.
I think the key takeaway from this, Geraldine, is that if for those who've been waiting on the sidelines to get back into real estate, I really don't think that we're looking at another dip in pricing due to another wave of foreclosures. I think we've reached price stability and we've reached a floor. And so for those people who are wondering how to get back into real estate or where the opportunities are, there's going to be an awful lot of speakers at this event that are going to talk about markets all over the country where real estate activity is really heating up.
Or also,
we have
if
one
people,
panel that will talk about where are the pros putting their money, which it should be a good one. I'll be facilitating that
Oh,
panel.
that sounds great.
Where are the pros putting their money? We want to know.
also if people are not pros, they haven't been investors in the past, and they're looking at their IRAs earning, hopefully maybe a 0.5% interest, and realizing there's some safe diversifications they can do, it would be a great opportunity for people who haven't invested before to really jump in and learn about it. It's the beginning of a school year, and that would be a great way to get their education.
So-
Exactly, and I think because because the prices have come down so dramatically, and I don't believe that you have to get in at the very bottom or out at the very top. That's greedy. But in terms of real estate, it's not going to change dramatically overnight. But we are seeing prices increases and inventory is low. So it is time to really consider getting in if you want to, and you want to capture some of these better prices. Now is a very good time, especially when you look at the interest rates as we discussed earlier.
Yeah, and I just want to remind not remind them, but tell the audience that both Mark Hanf and I are going to be there. So
Yes.
you get to come and meet your favorite host of the radio show, The Best of Investing.
Absolutely. It'll be fun
Yeah.
and informative.
Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you.
We're going to cut to another commercial break here, and we will be right back. Welcome! You're listening to the Best of Investing on News Talk 910. If you're a regular listener, you know this show is where we present valuable information about the real estate market, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. And for those of you listening for the first time, here's our format. A few guys sitting around a bar having drinks without the drinks, talking business with you, the audience, listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm honored to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender, and Brian Burke of Praxis Capital. And today's trivia theme is, raunchy movies. Put the kids away, audience. All right, our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. And also, we are now on Comcast, Channel 26, every Saturday at noon and Sunday at 6 p.m. Watch us and see what we all look like. And
That's scary.
That's scary.
We're not.
And today we have an extra special guest. His name is Joel Yanowitz. And Joel is a business consultant who is going to share how to take effective action towards reaching your goals and aspirations. Joel, welcome to the Best of Investing.
Thanks, it's great to be here, Edward.
Okay. Now, you started consulting with executives in large corporations. How did you transition to entrepreneurs and smaller growth companies?
Great question. We started when we were working with executives. One of the issues they were facing was how to innovate and how to grow their markets, grow their businesses in unknown territory.
Okay.
We started looking, who knows about that? Who knows something about how to get things done when you're dealing with situations of unpredictability, unknowability? In fact, I'm guessing many of your listeners find themselves looking at life and saying, boy, it sure isn't what it used to be. When they're looking to try to get something started, they're not sure about how to get started, they're not sure about how to manage the risks. These were the same things these executives were facing, and we started to look towards entrepreneurs, and particularly successful serial entrepreneurs, ones who'd not just gotten lucky once, but had built several companies. And that's what led us to the entrepreneurs market.
Hey, Joel, is there a particular mindset or way of approaching challenges that you find is common among successful entrepreneurs?
There is. Probably the most important one is a bias for action. We found that successful entrepreneurs don't spend a lot of time thinking about what to do. Their bias is to do something and then learn from it, and based on what they learn to then build on it.
So one of the things that I spent a lot of time thinking about when I started my company was whether or not I should leave my job that was paying the bills and just go out on my own and cut the strings. So, what advice do you have, or what factor would you say would point somebody towards making that move versus maybe not making that move?
I would say wait as long as you possibly can.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting.
Yeah. Now, I'll say why. There are several myths we have in our society about entrepreneurs, and one of them is that they're big risk takers. And it turns out that entrepreneurs are not risk takers as much as they are risk minimizers. So I would counsel you to say, how do you take your idea and advance it as far as you can? Get some customers, get feedback, figure out how to market the product or service, whatever you're offering.
Get a little income, maybe.
Get some income going. Build it up as far as you can till you can't get it any further without quitting your job. Not just for the financial security, but also sometimes when people start a business and start moving in a direction, they have some fantasy about how much they're going to love doing this. And a number of the people I've worked with have found that once they start building an idea, it's not all they thought it was going to be. And it turns out that the idea changes quite a bit to be something that, to make it something they actually want
Well, especially like a restaurant. Someone says, I love to cook, so I want to own a restaurant.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you say that maybe the point that you do that is the point where you realize that going to work at your normal job is costing you more money than it's making you by going to work because of the time you're not spending and devoting to your business?
Costing you more money and costing you more satisfaction.
Yeah.
The whole idea, the whole point of starting a business, besides financial security, is that you're actually doing something with your life that you enjoy and is more fulfilling and rewarding.
Right, absolutely.
So Joel, how are you working with your clients? Are you consider yourself a coach or a mentor or a consultant, or how are you working with clients?
Yes.
All three.
Well,
and more.
I'd say the simple answer is it's less about coaching, consulting, or mentoring, and more about what is the set of results that you're trying to create, and where do you feel stuck? What's holding you back? And then if that's a coaching relationship, or if that's more project-based consulting, and in some cases it is more mentoring. But I really try to build my relationships around the specific aspirations and concerns that the individual has that's coming to me.
So it sounds like you're working not only with aspiring entrepreneurs, but obviously with people who have taken that step and are maybe finding that there's just a few challenges out there being in business for yourself.
Yes.
Well, yeah, being an entrepreneur is really tough. So what keeps people motivated through the ups and downs of creating their business, through something new?
Two things I think really keep people going. One is that they have to actually love what they're doing. Not that you have a great time every day. I mean, we all know anyone who's run a business knows that it's not all fun and games. But beneath all that, you have to have a genuine interest in what you're doing and a genuine love of the business itself.
Okay, take that back though. It is all fun and games around here when we do the show.
This is the exception.
Okay, this is the exception.
Absolutely.
I think the other thing is people have a different relationship to what I'd say current reality. So things don't always go the way you want. And if you deal with that, if you react to that with disappointment or anger or frustration or resentment, it's very de-energizing. The successful entrepreneurs look at it and go, okay, this is what we did. We did it in order to get, we did X to get Y result, and we didn't get Y. We got something else. Let's learn from that. How do we, the old lemonade thing, how do we make lemonade out of these lemons?
Well, it's just also 5% of what happens to you and 95% of how you react to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, right, and I loved in your website when I was looking up some information on you earlier, Joel, it says, you've got a sentence in there that says, clearly if you want different results than those you are getting now, something has to change. And that reminds me of one of my favorite Jim Rohn quotes, which is, success is something you attract by the person you become. Meaning that to affect change, you have to change who you are. You have to grow as a person, and I know as someone who's, been a kind of, myself being a personal student of personal development, that was easy for me to say. It's the changes that I've made and the envelopes that I've pushed and going outside my comfort zone that has caused real growth and effective change in my business.
Yeah, very true. And it's tough when you're caught up in the day-to-day demands of your business to actually pay attention to your own growth as a leader.
So how do you help people? Do you work with people on things like as basic as goal setting? Because I know, like for me, my experience in my own challenges in my own small businesses, even as the simple goal setting things is something that I thought I knew how to do it, but really it wasn't working effectively until I worked with a coach.
Oh, interesting. It can be goal setting. For some people, the goals are very clear, and other people actually have trouble figuring out what success would look like. So it may be actually getting very clear about what success means to you, what it would look like in different time frames. Mm-hmm. Other people have greater difficulty with current reality, actually seeing things as they are, whether that's financial information or the relationships with their people in their business or their leadership team, all of those kinds of things. So some people it's that, and other people it's being able to figure out next steps and smart actions.
All right, thanks a lot, Joel. We're going to have you back in the second segment here. We're going to have to come to our first commercial break, and remember the theme, trivia theme is raunchy movies.
No sports. I'm
no
so
sports.
disappointed.
Okay, we got one hard question and two easy ones, in my opinion. Okay, this is the hard one. What was the name of the hockey team Paul Newman, but it is sports, I guess. What is the name of the hockey team Paul Newman played for in the 1977 movie Slapshot? And we will be right back. Okay, good. I know it's hard to remember, and if you have to move your seat,
Well, you don't have
because
to-
what happens is you go back like this, I have to keep going
This
like
is
this.
really loud.
Oh, then
so
I'll turn it.
yeah.
Okay. Then here.
So I'm
I'll turn
getting
that
close,
down.
and then it's so loud that I'm thinking I'm too close. Okay.
No, you're not
we're
too close
good.
at all.
Okay.
Your side tone was up too high.
Yeah, and if we could, and I know it's kind of hard because we're talking business.
Yeah.
We want to keep the audience engaged, so yeah, introduce your voice. Go, hey, that was kind of cool. Hey, it's okay. That's perfectly okay.
Okay, good.
All right, and we got. Let's see here. I got it.
What is it that I have to offer? Because I
you go
can't
now?
just go out and promote, borrow from me. I have to.
You have to be an expert.
And I finally had that aha moment in the last few months. And
So true.
it is how.
It's back.
Yep,
Okay. So
absolutely.
again, we're going to animate this a little bit more,
Okay.
and you're going to say right up to the mic like this, and
Right up to the
go
mic
like
and
that.
animate.
So I got a follow-up question to the goal setting thing. And,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
All right.
So, we'll follow. Okay, ready? Here we go. We have 5 seconds of silence. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host. I'm in the studio here with Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, Brian Burke of Praxis Capital, and our guest Joel Yanowitz. And when we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. And again, the theme is raunchy movies. What was the name of the hockey team Paul Newman played for in the 1977 movie Slapshot? Anyone?
Yeah, so we blend a sports question with a movie question to make it 10
Not
times
really.
harder. You're killing me here.
Ducks?
No. Anyone?
Well, I'm a blank on that one.
Okay, the Chiefs. You have to see the movie.
Oh,
That's the one with the
of course, should have known
That's
that.
the one with the Hanson brothers, the glasses, and the big
that's
nose. Remember
right.
that? Okay, the name of the Chiefs. All right. And Mark, you had a question for Joel you want to ask him.
Yeah, Joel, we were talking about goal setting before the first commercial break, and what I wanted to expand on that, it's not so much just like writing down what's your goal for the year, your goal for your business, which I know a lot of us are told, if your goal's not in writing, it's just a delusion. So I've got this goal in writing, but for me, it's also, in my business, it's the daily and the weekly planning and goal setting. It's how do I focus on growing my business as opposed to just doing all the, answering emails and answering the phone and doing the daily technical stuff. And that's what I tend to find most challenging.
Yeah, and you're not alone in that. The biggest thing I found to be helpful to people is if you look at your calendar, your time by how much time you spend on everything, and put it into two simple buckets. How much time you're spending reacting to everything else coming at you, and how much time you are spending on creating the things that are important to you in the business. So where do you want to take the business? What are the critical few things that will move it ahead in the next 90 days, 30, 60, 90 days, short term? This is not the grand vision, the grand plan. This is how do you move the business in the direction you want to move it in the next 30, 60, 90 days? What are the critical few, 2 or 3 things you can do to move it in that direction, and then put those first?
Disconnect your email account.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, let's turn the notifications off.
Yeah, turn all the notifications off except for...
Wait a minute, hold on. I'm answering some emails here. What was
Yeah,
that?
I missed that
See?
one. Right, yeah. And by the way, we were talking at the break about the notion of comfort zone, of doing things out of your comfort zone.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah, right.
I'm not a big fan of that, of comfort as a standard of measurement of whether things are right. So sometimes people will say, well, I'm not really comfortable with that, so I'm not sure I should do it. Or sometimes people say, well, that's out of my comfort zone, so it must be good. I would say basing what you do or your judgment or assessment of an idea based on your comfort with it is a bad criteria. A better criteria is this one of the critical few, 2 or 3 things that will move the needle on those goals over the next 30, 60, 90 days? And if so, I don't really care how I feel about it. I'm going
That's
to do
right,
it.
yeah.
So, and I totally agree with that. It's what are the 3 things I should be focusing on in my business as a way of moving forward. But what about the 35 other things? I mean, how do you work with guys who are saying there's so much to do and I'm not yet at a profit level where I can hire people that I need to do that? How do you work within that quandary?
Yeah. Two principles. One is design systems to handle repetitive tasks so that you're not always doing them. And the other is benign neglect. If you just didn't get to it, there are some things you're just not going to get to. And if the problem you're having is the things you're just not getting to are the most important things to move your business forward, you're better off doing those and neglecting other things and annoying or angering some people because you're not doing those things, but your business is moving forward.
Okay, I feel like I have to sit on the psychologist's couch here for a minute. Okay, I'd like to go on vacation at some point, but I can't because exactly. My wife's been bugging me about that, but I get so busy and I get nervous that if I go on vacation and I don't bring, the laptop or cell phone or whatever, I'm going to be so angst because I know when I get back, I'm going to have to, you need another vacation from the vacation.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
I call it, when you come back, that's the penalty phase.
Yeah, that's right. And is it worth it?
Yeah, that's
I
a
mean,
great
for your
question.
sanity,
Yeah.
I know you have to. Let's see. Okay, I want to ask you one question here. Passion is one of the words that we often use to describe entrepreneurs.
Yep.
But you say that it can be a mistake to focus on that. It seems to be. It seems like being passionate would be a good thing. So what's so bad about being passionate?
Yeah, nothing bad about being passionate, but this is another one of these mythologies we have about entrepreneurs, that they're passionate about what they do. Now, if you look at successful entrepreneurs, after they've built their companies and made lots of money, they are in fact passionate about what they do. But if you look at when they started their company, most likely they were more interested, they were more curious, they were more wondering, it's kind of like dating. When you go out on your first date with somebody, not that there might be some passion there, but it's not a committed relationship. You're kind of like, yeah, I like going out with her. She was nice. I think I'd like to see her again. And entrepreneurs have that same relationship to their ideas, to their business. When you guys started your business, you didn't have this great passion for it. You're like, no, maybe I could try this. Maybe I could make a living doing this. I'll do it for a while before I quit my day job.
That's actually very true, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
My wife said that as soon as she saw me, she says, "That's the guy I'm going to marry." You guys laugh, but it's so true.
It's true.
She still tells you that story, huh?
Exactly.
And it's still working.
Tell me a bedtime story.
But so passion, it's not that passion is bad. The problem is, if I've got an idea and something I'm interested in doing, but I don't take action because I'm just not passionate enough. And I think that if I'm not passionate about this idea, I shouldn't do it because there's something wrong. I should wait till I have an idea I'm really passionate about, then I won't do anything. And entrepreneurs don't think that way. They act and they learn from what they do and they build on that. And over time, they see if their commitment and interest and passion for the idea grows. And they also see if the market's interest in their idea grows.
Okay. And for the audience, in case you just joined us, we're in the studio here with Joel Yanowitz.
So Joel, I have an idea for a business I want to start. I think I might be good at it. Don't know that I have passion for it yet, but what is the best way to start? How do you coach people on starting an entrepreneurial business endeavor?
Yeah, great question. I suspect there are probably a lot of people listening to this who are in the same boat. I'm thinking of doing something. I've always had this idea and I don't know how to start. The answer is figure out the simplest first step you can take to test the idea. And we talk about smart steps. There's a couple things. One is, don't worry about making progress, worry about learning. So in the first step you say, I don't really know who my customers would be, or I don't know which features of this service people will really value. Rather than figure that out beforehand, try something. Offer it to some people, even if you offer it for free to friends. Try this out, or you mock up some products in your basement, try to sell them at a farmer's market, anywhere, to get feedback from the market.
I don't have the patience. I just come up with the idea and say, "Write me a check.
Well,
Where's my $1 million?"
Yeah.
So okay,
Yeah.
you
How many checks have you gotten so far?
None. I guess I better start with your idea.
you've got the idea and
Yeah.
you've just started, and
Yep.
you've got going. Now here's the tough part.
Okay.
Everybody loves the entrepreneurial success story. You came up with a great idea, you started it, and you built it into something grand. But what most people don't realize is that along the way, you tripped over yourself, you failed, something didn't work. But the successful entrepreneurs are the ones that get past that and start again, or try again, or find a new way. So what do you say to people that are in that phase where they're like, gosh, I really gave this a shot, and it just didn't work for me, or I found this obstacle and I just can't seem to get past it?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and it's really hard to not get discouraged. I've certainly been there myself many times.
Yeah, who hasn't?
Right, exactly. But the key is what you said, is learn from it. So if I'm really interested in this idea, and I think there's a there, so to speak, what can I learn from the fact that my first 3 attempts failed?
Yep.
You know, and if those failed, I now know something that I didn't know before. And in fact, I may know something that none of my competitors know.
That's right.
So how do I use that information?
But what did Edison, how many times did he fail?
Yeah.
A couple thousand?
Thousands of times,
Yeah.
right. I mean,
Well,
it's hysterical, the stories of what he actually tried to put as a filament in a light bulb. I don't remember half of them, but yeah.
Or
So
even
whatever
look
it
at,
was-
Abraham Lincoln also, how many times did he fail?
Yeah, I mean, you have to fail. That's the only way that you improve on what it is that you're doing, is something didn't work, and that forces you to change and find a different way to do it. And I think so many times people get caught up where they go, gosh, I'm having this difficulty, or this isn't working, and they pull back, or they just give up completely. And I think that's the critical juncture between a successful entrepreneur and one that goes back to work.
Yeah, and so, here's the question, here's the thing that we found really interesting, is how you design those steps so that if you fail, you can keep going.
Yes.
How do you live to fight another day? And it turns out there's a concept called acceptable loss, which is, I'm going to make this bet. How do I make the bet in such a way that if I'm completely wrong, I've either preserved enough capital, enough relationship credibility, enough personal energy and pride, whatever it is, I've preserved enough that I know I can take another step.
All right, we are going to cut to our second commercial break, and here is the second trivia question. Again, the theme is raunchy movies. This one's a little easier. Sacha Cohen starred in this 2006. All I had to do was say Sacha Cohen. You guys know
That's a giveaway.
Yeah, hold on. In this 2006 movie as a spoof documentary as a fictional journalist traveling through the United States. What was the name of the movie? We will be right back. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hunt, my co-host, and Brian Burke, my co-host. And when we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question. And again, the theme is raunchy movies. Sacha Cohen starred in this 2006 movie as a spoof documentary as a fictional journalist traveling through the United States. What was the name of the movie? Anyone?
Borat.
Borat, that is correct.
Yes.
And we were just talking off air about how at some World Olympics or something, this poor lady, or girl, I guess she's a young girl. Kazakhstan wins the gold medal, and they don't have any music for the national anthem, and they played the spoof music from Sacha Cohen, from Borat. A little
how
embarrassing.
embarrassing.
Okay. All right. We are going to get right into email time here, and Mark, we received from a listener. We received this email. Looks like it's directed toward you. How can you pay your investors 8 to 10% in today's environment?
Good question. Well, it really boils down to the fact that, after the subprime meltdown in 2007, 2008, the banks largely stopped making loans to real estate investors, and that created a huge void in the supply of capital. And so what happened shortly after that is companies like mine, Pacific Private Money, we essentially said, well, look, we've got access to investors who like to earn high yields, who understand the nature of real estate and are willing to make loans secured by real estate. So the private lending market was literally redeveloped from what was the hard money industry years before, and started making loans to real estate investors. Now, the market essentially dictates the terms under which that the price of money, and private lenders essentially decided that the amount of interest they were willing to loan their money out was anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12%, and entrepreneurs who were buying real estate essentially decided it's a business decision for them, and for the folks who buy fix and flip, for example, they're expected to make a profit on their money, so they're willing to pay as high as 12% for that money, generally for a short-term use. So that's really the bulk of the market right now for private money is for people who like to buy fix and flip real estate. It's usually a loan term for under 12 months. And so we're in an environment where some of my investors don't want to commit to long-term investments. So they love the fact that it's a 6 to 12-month investment. They can make anywhere from 8 to 10, sometimes as high as 12, although that's a little bit more rare.
And no load.
Right, and it's a no-load investment. And then I've got borrowers who know that they can make a profit. They can make anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000 average profit on a fix and flip if it's done correctly, and they're willing to pay high rates of interest for the short-term use of that money. So it's essentially a market that has been created in California and nationwide as a result of the banks pulling out of the market now. I do get borrowers who say, well, how come I can't borrow money at 6 or 7 or 8%? And that's a darn good question. If I had access to cheaper capital, I could probably accommodate them. But really, there's in the grand scheme of how you assess risk, generally there's a price at which the people who are willing to loan their money to a perfect stranger, albeit secured by real estate, that price it's been coming down, but it's been holding fairly steady the last several years at around average 10 to 12% cost of money. And then the investors then in exchange have been averaging about 8 to 10% that they earn on that investment.
And these investors, wouldn't you say that, I know it's a return versus risk calculation for them to loan their money out, but wouldn't you think that now with real estate prices being so far depressed, that there's so little downside risk in the marketplace that this is really the safest time for those investors to be making an investment such as this?
I agree completely. I don't think there's ever been a better time than now to make a loan, to fund a loan to a real estate investor secured by a real estate, because for two things. One, the air's been let out of the balloon. I mean, we've devalued in real estate in California anywhere from maybe 25% all the way to 80% in some markets that in the Bay Area. And then number two, we're not making 80% loans. We're not making 75% loans. In fact, most of the loans we do are at a max loan to value of 65% of today's value,
current value,
not
today's
2005 values,
Right.
but today's actual purchase price, not what they think it's worth. Because I do get guys that call me and say, if I'm buying a property at 65 cents on the dollar and you do 65% financing, will you make 100% loan to me? And the answer is no, we don't do it that way. It's whatever you negotiated for your purchase price, that's what the price is, and we'll loan you 65% of that, and we'll fund it with an individual's money. And so that's the safety factors and the protective equity that's available there to someone who's considering funding a private party secured loan like that. They're amazing.
Let me give you a little personal example here that happened almost 20 years ago for us. We thought we knew what we were doing, and we sure wish we would have known you, because we actually even had a real estate attorney who was part of this transaction. And he said, "Yeah, don't worry about those IRS liens. They'll come off."
Yeah, right.
And sure enough, when
Famous last words.
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
So when we actually did the foreclosure, and we were the winning bidder, and we figured, okay, great, this is fantastic. Well, suddenly the IRS comes in and says, we think that property is worth more, and so we're not getting rid of our liens. I mean, if the property is way depressed, then they may not have done that. But we had to come up with $130,000 in IRS liens, and that pretty much wiped out all the profit.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, I know people today that have tried their hand at buying at the auctions because it seems so enticing. Wow, I can buy property at 70 cents on the dollar or 75 cents on the dollar, only to find out that after all the work, even if they did buy it correctly and there weren't any unexpected liens, the amount of money that they were making at the end really didn't justify all that work. I mean, you have to, you guys, Brian, at Praxis, you've got a team, you've got a system, you're able to get in and out of the properties. You can make the kind of profits per property that an individual is going to have a very difficult time doing if they haven't been doing it for years.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. It's a business that's unlike no other,
All right, we're going to cut to our third and final commercial break, and here's the trivia question. Again, the trivia theme is raunchy movies. This 1982 movie features a group of high schoolers who seek to lose their virginity, which leads them to seek revenge on a sleazy nightclub owner and his redneck sheriff brother for harassing them. Hint, think pig? You knew this answer already, didn't you?
Is there a movie called Edward Brown?
Yeah, no, hey, come on. Mark, I'm a little concerned for you because you know these answers to these movies like right on the spot there. And Brian, you're shaking your head no.
I'm just thinking this is a farm animal question. I don't know this one either.
And we will be right back. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hanf and Brian Burke. And when we cut to the third and final commercial break, we asked this trivia question again. The theme is raunchy movies. This 1982 movie features a group of high schoolers who seek to lose their virginity, which leads them to seek revenge on a sleazy nightclub owner and his redneck sheriff brother for harassing them. Hint, think pig. And Brian's so straight-laced, he thought the movie was Babe. That's not correct. But Mark, he's seen a lot of these movies. I'm just kidding. So Mark, what is the answer?
Yeah, it would be Porky's.
It would be Porky's. That is correct. And we were talking off the air about the movie Borat and how the running of the Jews and all that with the horns. And actually, that stuff is really true. There were people who think that Jews have horns.
That's just
Okay.
science weird.
Very strange. Okay, Mark, see, you have an article, or is it Brian? You got the article.
Yeah, we both have it actually. We're sitting here just talking about it during the break about Case Shiller and CoreLogic coming out with some interesting figures, and house prices and price to rent ratios are back to levels not seen since the 1990s, and I think we're seeing this from a practical standpoint. In Northern California, we're buying a lot of property now to hold as rentals, and these are single-family houses. And I tell you, if you would have asked me 5, 6, 7 years ago about buying single-family houses to hold as rentals in California, I would have said you were crazy. There's no way that the economics of that work at all. But now you've got the prices have fallen so far, in fact, up to 70% down in some of the markets that we've been buying in, and yet all the time that was happening, rents have either stayed level or actually climbed. So with increasing rents and decreasing prices, this so-called price to rent ratio is actually out of whack with historical norms, but into whack, for lack of a better way to put it, with with what makes financial sense. And it actually makes financial sense now to own rental property when in the past that just really hasn't been the case at all. And I think Mark, you've been in this business a long time like me, and I've never seen it this good from that perspective.
Well, no, and I remember even in the 70s, even though I was a teenager in the 70s, but that was, my dad was in real estate investment and development and such, and that's when the first kind of, wave of seriously high appreciation started to happen in California.
Right.
And I think after that, you just really it never made sense to buy California real estate for rental income, and so we are truly in a unique environment now where rents have followed basically inflation all this time and hasn't gone down, whereas as you said, we've got now housing prices that are somewhere in the high 1990s.
Yeah, in fact, this article points to that. It says, in real terms, all appreciation in the 2000s and more is gone. So essentially what they're saying is we're back to 1999 or 2000 prices. And if you recall, there was a run-up in prices in 1990 to 1993, remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then there was another run-up in 2002 through 2004. Well, if you reset prices all the way back to 1999 levels, you essentially wiped out the entire 2000s. But what's interesting is we've gone back and looked at the properties that we've been buying, and we've looked in the history to see when did this house last sell and how much did it sell for when it last transacted, and what about the time before that, and what about the time before that, and then we compare that to how much we paid for the house. And what we found, a number of examples where we've bought houses for less than that house sold for in 1987.
Wow. And
so now you've wiped out 23 years of house price appreciation and reset all the way back to that level.
I've never asked you this question, but when you rent out the houses, how much of a deposit generally can you get from your renters?
Well, the law says you can only collect a deposit equivalent to 2 months worth of rent. So if it's $1,000 a month rent, you can collect a $2,000 security deposit, or you could collect a $1,000 security deposit and $1,000 last month's rent.
Yeah.
No matter how you word it, you can't take more than 2 months.
But are you finding that people can come up with that money?
Yeah, we are. I mean, let's look at what's going on out there in the world. How long have people been going without paying for housing at all?
Yeah.
A lot of people have quite a bit of money saved
So
up.
you're not buying those mansions where the rent's $5,000 a month, and
Right, or the house that costs $700,000 but still only rents for $3,500. No, we're not in that market. We're in the $125,000 that rents for $1,400 type of a market.
What I thought was interesting from that Case Shiller report was, and a little bit disturbing, is that they're certainly not willing to call a bottom to the market. And I know this is a nationwide.
I'll call it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked at last week's show about in the Bay Area that at least, from what I'm seeing and from my own, vantage point as someone who makes a lot of loans to a lot of real estate investors, I don't see further depreciation in pricing, at least not at the entry level and mid level market. Maybe on the higher end, which has been the San Francisco, certain markets in San Francisco or Tiburon or Hillsborough, or where prices are in the multiples of millions. That's one thing, because that market still isn't moving quite as fast. But in the market where most people are playing, I certainly am seeing a stabilization of prices. I don't know if you are too.
I am absolutely seeing a stabilization of prices. In fact, in the bottom market tier, even a little bit of price increase over the last 3 or 4 months. The upper price bracket and the secondary move-up market still a little bit soft. But I'll tell you this: I just got back from Chicago, and I had some personal meetings with some of the brightest real estate minds in the country. These are the guys that are running the multi-billion-dollar funds. And in talking with these guys, it's very interesting. They certainly do believe that the real estate market is sitting at a bottom right now, and these are some of the smartest guys you're going to find out there. So, and I tend to agree with them.
Well, and then you've got the Phoenix market, which guys I know who are investing there have told me prices are going up.
Prices are up, yeah, that's true. Prices are going up in Phoenix of all places. Vegas, not yet, but watch out, it'll happen.
There's so much inventory
There
there.
Well,
is.
and then I think some of the little markup in pricing that you mentioned that you're starting to see in the lower end, I think part of that is a factor of we're still really waiting for the banks to just start opening the spigots and letting out some of that pent-up inventory back on the market. And maybe they're smarter than I am, and figuring, well, let's create that demand. Let's wait for the prices to uptick a little bit, and we'll release more.
You know what they're doing? They're waiting for that big capital source. These guys, like the guys I was talking to get their money ready to put out in the market to absorb that inventory, and that's about to happen.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Joel, thanks for joining us in the studio.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And here are our thoughts for the day. I must not have been a very good parent, because when the kids were little, I gave them some brandy to help them fall asleep. Come 5 o'clock the next day, they started to ask when we were having happy hour again. And then also when they were little, I was so cheap that I told them every time they heard the sound of the bell for the ice cream truck, that meant that they were out of ice cream. I better take some parenting classes, I'll tell you.
I thought you told them to run in front of the truck.
Right, then I wouldn't have to buy ice cream.
See, you weren't so bad after all, were you?
Okay, I like that. All right, and as a side note, our play, The Living Last Supper, has been canceled, unfortunately. So don't show up April 1st at Valley Baptist in San Rafael at 6 p.m. or you'll be by yourself. Go there at 9 a.m. for regular church instead, okay? And tune in next week to the Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. And Bruce Robbie from his company is going to be on our show. And he's going to be talking about the stock market and other financial investment vehicles. And thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long.